Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Maharat webinar on jobs and skills post-COVID-19. This is Tahir Al-Blushi, your MC for today's webinar session. This webinar is brought to you by Maharat Academy, supported by OPAL, Oman Society for Petroleum Services, Agial HR Solutions and Services, CILT, the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, and OLA, Oman Logistics Association. Our digital media partner is Imagine Oman. The webinar is going to highlight the top skills which you need to succeed in as a step to prepare yourself for a post-COVID-19 business world. Maharat is an Omani-funded training business, which means that we are 100% geared to in-country values, with Omanization at the heart of our agenda. Maharat's main purpose is skilling the Omani workforce to become globally competitive. Maharat designs, develops, and delivers tailor-made and measurable solutions for clients in the public and private sectors in Oman. Maharat prides itself in delivering training solutions to local and international clientele. Now that we have covered the introduction, we would like to get into the webinar session. And without further ado, I would like to introduce our honorable guest who will take this webinar session forward. Starting with our moderator of the session, Mr. Maharat Al-Kharousi, Chairman of Maharat Academy, Chairman of CILT, and Chairman of Al-Safa Group of Companies. Our valued panelists today are from different reputed business verticals. Mr. Abdullah Al-Busaidi, Sector Skills Unit Manager at Oman Society for Petroleum Services, OPAL. Mr. Adrian Snook, Director Learning Accelerators. Mr. Faiz Al-Maskari, CEO Agial HR Solutions and Services. Ms. Nabila Al-Amri, Professional Coach Oman ICF Board Member. It gives me a great pleasure to hand over the session to our moderator, Mr. Maharat Al-Kharousi.
Thank you, Tahra. Shukran jazilan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello, everyone. Today's webinar is all about job skills for the post-COVID-19 era. Maharat Academy aims to bring you global best practices locally and easily accessible to everyone in Oman. I'm very delighted today to be your moderator for today's webinar. Today, as Tahra has given us, we've got global and local panelists from different verticals. From the industry itself, we have been honored by Abdullah Al-Busaidi from OPAL. From the globally view, we have Adrian Snook of Learning Accelerators. And we have local practitioners here, such as Faiz Al-Maskari of Agile Solutions, hundreds of years experiences. And we have Nabila, who is our young coach, learned coach. And she will also direct how graduates to look at their careers and how actually to move forward in this. So today, we are very excited to share with you a lot of insights from these panelists. And I'm sure there will be some good learnings. And also, we'd like to have your feedback of what else can we do for the public here in Oman and for our audiences. So as Tahra said, there's a chat room and also the question and answers. Please use them so that we give you feedback. And also, we will have some questions that we'd like to ask you, and if you can respond back to us at that time. Without further ado, I'd like Neil, if you can just present my couple of slides, please. Right. Post-COVID, first of all, these pandemics are not new to Oman. If you remember very well, in 2007, we've been hit hard here by the Gonu cyclone. And that time, we were not as prepared as we are today. Actually, like any of these kind of situations, it makes us be adaptable to crises such as this COVID-19. In fact, Gonu was a good learning experience for Oman. At that time, we were hit hard. We didn't hardly have any of the emergency procedures that we could respond as companies. I think the government here did extremely well during the Gonu for 2007. They stabilized the food requirements and all sorts of other things. The power cuts were there and everything else. But within 2-3 days of such a catastrophe, we were back again, having the electricity on, and then having all the supermarkets that have come on to give us the foods, etc. It was quite frightening at that time. But that Gonu was not as big as COVID-19. COVID-19 has been hit the Oman nationally, and also it's hit globally. And although that time we had a short time to regroup, but this time round, the whole shutdown of the country, the lockdowns and other things has made people not be able to get to work and so many different things. But also the technology that we've adapted, like today we are doing these webinars, we were able to do that because during the Gonu time, there was a lot of work that the government did between 2007 and 2020 in terms of e-government, in terms of different areas, and we were able to respond quite well through the COVID-19. I think the first thing that COVID-19 response was to ensure that we all could get access to food, and the supply chains in Oman were well managed. We didn't have any issue whatsoever in terms of the supermarket availability of products or anything like that. So the fear of initially people saying that we won't be able to survive was gone in a very short time. And thereafter, we had to adapt to the new world. But I must say, Oman has really adapted very, very well. And with the new technologies, with the broadband now facilities, and so forth. And today we are having a global with a local connect, and we are having our wider Omani audience on a single screen. None of us are in the offices now. We are all actually doing things online. So we are, with this COVID-19, we should be prepared for the future. You know that environmental catastrophe is about to come, climate change, global situations. We have not even got there yet, but let's learn from this, adapt quickly, and maybe mitigate the bigger pandemics or the environmental catastrophes which are coming in the future. Let's be prepared for the future. And this is exactly what we want to think about there, what jobs we need for the future and what skills we need for the future. Next slide, please. Right. What we've done here is talk to each other as panelists, thinking about what kind of core skills does an individual need, whatever job you have. And I think we've listed down a few here. They're not finite, but basically what we see today, what is needed. And I'm sure there are a few changes, but what's also very important is that any graduate or school leaver or somebody looking for employment should have some personal core skills that they really have to excel in today's world. Emotional intelligence, I think most of us know there's a lot of things involved in there. Adaptability, it's no brainer today. We have to adapt very, very quickly. We need entrepreneurship skills. In the old days, organizations would do things for you, the government would do things for you. But today's world, people have to do things for themselves. And I've seen quite a number of enterprises now talking about entrepreneurship skill as a job skill, not just because I want to have my own business. And then, of course, commercial skills, globally, they are required, and you have to have different strategies for different things, procurement skills, supply chain skills, and creativity and collaboration and all these things. Unless you have these core skills, you can go to the industry and start not knowing where to start. So, but if you have these skills, then at least you know where to start from. Now, when it comes to technical skills, I would suggest these would be post your educational academy sort of training. When you go into the business, once you have these core skills, that will adapt you to whatever business that is or whatever skills that are required. And then you sharpen up the skills by learning the technical skills. So you should invest as a graduate on the core skills, and the organizations or whoever you're going to be working for in the future, you should self-develop yourself, and the organization should help you to sharpen up your skills. And we know today that data scientists, analytical skills, artificial intelligence, blockchain, all these kind of things are coming in. Also marketing, media, different sort of virtual reality, augmented realities are all coming through. And without this, we can't simply do those manual works that are going through as well. So basically, without a further ado, I wanted to set the scene for you. And my panelists here today will give us the industry view. Like Abdullah, I would like to hand over to Abdullah now, Abdullah Busaidi. He'll talk about the OPAL, which is the oil and gas industry sector, and he'll tell us kind of what are they doing about skills, and also how they actually work with their members. So Abdullah, I'd like to leave the floor to you for a few minutes. Give us a few of those insights.
Thank you, Sheikh Warith. Assalamu alaikum all. It's a pleasure being in here. And I will show some slides just to elaborate on what we have been said by Warith. Just bear with me. I hope it is clear, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Now, since we are talking about skills, of course, was mentioned by Warith that I'm working for OPAL, and OPAL is an industry representative for a society which was formed initially by the industry in 1998, then moved towards a registration in October 2001. We have got, as an OPAL, we have got a member companies of more than 400 companies, which give us an access to subject matter experts, and also it gives us an industry support of what is needed. Now, if you need to know more about OPAL, please feel free to visit the website, which is shown below, opaloman.org. And of course, we are non-for-profit and we are a non-government organization. Specifically talking about the skills and the demand which is needed by the sector. Now we have to align us we have to align with the country vision, which is 2040, and that's where the establishment of the oil and gas sector came through the Tanfeed initiative, which is 2.1. And that was mainly to develop a sustainable skill development system in Oman for the development and maintenance and implementation of the National Occupational Standard, which is called NOS. In this particular area, OPAL was privileged to have a license, a full license by the Occupational Standards Center, OSC, which is within the Ministry of Manpower. So now OPAL is the first entity to be recognized and licensed as an SSU. Hence, SSU is an equivalent to sector skill councils in other countries. They call sector skill councils, which is the same. What is it for us as an OPAL having this license? Of course, this license as an SSU will support OPAL's efforts to bring together the industry, bring standardization and human capital development for the sectors, which is one of the pillars of OPAL. Talking about SSU, what is an SSU and what is the work model of work? actually, the SSU is an organization that brings together the industry, human resources, and academics for conducting research and development activities for the skill development and skill upgradations for Omani youth. Meaning in here that through the SSU, it's a platform where we brings both the academia or the training institutions and of course, word of work. Now, we need to understand that's demand versus supply. And once we bring them together, that is where the competency and the demand will be defined by the industry and it's owned by the industry. So what is the expectation out of the SSU? Those are the main roles or the key roles of the SSUs. First of all, we need to define or identify the skill development needed, starting with something called OM, occupational map. An occupational map will give you a visual presentation of all occupations within the industry and where there is an overlap in between one industry towards another industry. And I can give you an example of the oil and gas. We have got more than 400 companies and they are serving the oil and gas, but they are not purely oil and gas. We have got companies coming from construction, from logistics, and so on and so on. So we need to know where is the limitations and what kind of job skills within the oil and gas. And of course, we need to support it by something called LMIA, Labor Market Information Analysis, where we analyze again the demand, statistics, and so on. Once this being cleared, we start to develop national occupational standards. And national occupational standards are specific standards that specify the performance in terms of the whole three elements of competency. So it is about knowledge, skills, and attitude, stroke behavior, which is set by the industry. And of course, once that's been developed, other product will come. Now, since we are talking about the SSU and the linkage between the SSU and OPAL, yes, SSU is established underneath OPAL, but to make sure that there is major or there is big involvement from the industry, the SSU have got its own governing board consisting are represented from the industry and also from the line ministry, the like of Ministry of Oil and Gas, and represented from the from Ministry of Manpower. They meet in a quarterly basis. Now, within OPAL itself, we have got three main departments who are the bone of the whole SSU. We have got projects, human capital development projects, which I'm part of it. We have got quality mark. Again, it's within OPAL. We have got human capital development product and services, which whatever being developed, it has to go in underneath the implementation. Now, all of those as a product and services, we have to have a kind of a platform. Now, one of the things that you have mentioned, Maharat, is now currently we are using a lot of electronic platforms. So if you can see on the right-hand side, there is a learning hub which has been designed to serve the activities of the whole SSUs, the whole functionality of SSUs. Currently, it's still underneath enhancement to cover the whole SSU. So that is from my side.
Thank you very much, Abdullah. So that's given a fantastic insight about the industry and what the industry is doing about skills unit. I think this is a very excellent initiative from the Ministry of Manpower, delegated to the industry, and you guys driving for the industry skills. So fantastic, Lakh Abdullah. I'd like to turn now, without further ado, to Adrian. Maybe give us a little bit of global perspective in terms of COVID-19 impact and what jobs are coming up, and also what kind of skills are required. Thank you very much, Adrian. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Warith. Well, I think it was one of the Beatles who said, life is what happens to you whilst you're busy making other plans. And we all probably had a different expectation about what this year held for us. That applies to governments, it applies to businesses, and it applies certainly to individuals. So the theme for today's jobs and skills, post-2019, or post-COVID-2019, what I've done is put together a mind map which explores some of the implications. It's a huge map, and one of the benefits of attending today's webinar is that you'll be able to receive a free poster with all of the various elements explored in it. Essentially, what this does is highlight what the different impacts of COVID-19 have been on a whole range of different aspects of society, and map out exactly what those impacts mean. So there are, as in any recession, there are opportunities and challenges. So whether you are a business owner, whether you're an individual looking for new roles, disruption creates opportunity, because the major players, the major competitors in any industry or sector were making other plans for this year. They were assuming that their competitive advantages were going to apply to them, and they would continue to have a structural advantage. So I won't explore all of these in great detail. If you request one, a map will be sent to you afterwards, which we will update with all of the outputs from today. So let's take a little look over to the right-hand side of the screen, and we'll look at what the implications of all those various changes, what they have been. So on one hand, there's been a massive change to the requirements for skills development. So you've got a situation where essentially the traditional methods of face-to-face learning are no longer available to us. And Oman has made big strides in adapting. So this webinar, in a way, is an example of that. It's the way in which we're beginning to embrace remote learning solutions in a way that probably wouldn't have happened with the same degree of speed. So the reduced access to learning solutions face-to-face means there's disruption to operating models for established players globally. So there's international opportunity here for Oman as universities, colleges, schools, institutes, associations and employers have to rethink how they deliver learning. So for domestic Omani training providers, there are opportunities elsewhere in the GCC countries and further afield. There are also opportunities globally for learning technology companies, social media companies, digital media publishers and channels, logistics companies, virtual universities, aggregators of learning content. So it's important with full things. There have clearly been some negative impacts. So for those in education during lockdown, it's not the experience they were planning. And clearly those teachers who have been trained during lockdown may struggle a little bit with adapting, as will those qualified teachers who struggle to adapt and upskill for remote teaching in the future. So there's a big requirement there for future upskilling, which in itself represents an opportunity. There's an increased dependence on remote learning. So that means traditionally learning of the traditional sort, but also adaptive learning that personalizes to the needs of the individual learner. That's a platform which is new and which, if adopted, could deliver significant benefits. And all of these types of solution are things which there are limited skills in the market. So there are relatively few people at mastery level. If you enter these fields, you're probably not so far behind others, because what's being worked out isn't yet in a national occupational standard. There aren't that many people there. So particularly for young people, you could gain an early advantage. As Warrior's highlighted, the uncertainty of the situation means flexibility is key. Employers historically and in the future will tend to employ for attitude and then train for skills. So if you demonstrate creativity, powers of persuasion, and interest in collaboration and dialogue, adaptability and emotional intelligence, then you're much more likely to get a hearing from an employer, and they're more likely to want to invest in the kind of high demand, hard skills that Warith was just talking about. And not all of these are the kind of things that traditionally you would have aspired to in Oman, because there are so many other employment opportunities. So that kind of brings me to the end of my brief overview. Obviously, there's an opportunity for questions later, and you'll also get an opportunity to actually take a closer look at all the depth and detail in this mind map. The infrastructure impacts, health impacts, land use impacts, environmental impacts, etc.
Thank you very much, Adrian. I think that's a fantastic insight about possible jobs and then possible skills of the future. This is exactly the kind of feel which we need to have and what we need to adapt to the new world. I think without a further ado, again, I'm sure we'll have some questions a bit later on. A lot of people have asked that, could you get some of that mind map to them? We'll make sure that each and every person who's connected with us or emailed us, we will send them the mind map as they have wanted. It's a very useful for us to play with, and I think we need to work with it. So without a further ado, I'll ask Faiz here, is a very veteran in terms of recruitment and a veteran in terms of competence development. He's worked for many major organizations such as OQ and ASIAD and a few others. Maybe he can give us a bit of a feel to what the employers are looking for from job seekers.
Okay, thank you very much, Maharat, for the introduction. Sorry, just getting the slides together.
Well done, Faiz. It seems you've adapted well to the technologies. Maybe I spoke too soon.
You spoke too soon about competencies, so that's one competency I'm still trying to. What happened? Okay, I'm logged in from my screen share. Sorry.
Yeah, somebody's logged in.
It's all right. We take time to.
Maybe Neil can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. See, we have to also learn patience as well, Faiz.
All right. I want to talk a little bit about competencies. I think it's a very good follow through from the previous presentations. This is something I'm very passionate about. I came across competency like 20 years ago when I was first assigned to Shell Malaysia. And I was privileged enough to be nominated as a competency assessor for senior offshore operators. And the insight there is, I think if you can recall Piper Alpha and the incident that happened there in the North Sea and the learnings from that. And what we do is we place people on an offshore platform, which is a very dangerous environment. And if people are not competent, they place other people's lives at risks.
Faiz, if you switch off your video, we may get a better broadband. Yeah, okay.
Sorry?
Switch off video.
Sorry?
Switch out of your video. It takes a bit of a band.
Okay. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's better, clearer.
So with that experience, I find a key area of developing young people is to concentrate on competencies. And from what Adrian just brought up from his slides as well, is that there's lots of opportunities, but a lot of people don't develop themselves to mastery. So they broaden out in a lot of things, but actually they don't specialize. And I think there's a lot of opportunities there for people to go into specialized fields and make it very senior in organizations. So not necessarily everybody take a generalist route to get to a senior manager, but also take in the technical route or the specialist route and that's where I think we lack some of the key competencies, yeah? And also, I find that is a very big opportunity for everybody. A lot of companies have already gone competency-based management, but what I would urge them is to keep it simple. Some of them have overcomplicated it and it becomes very difficult to manage. Yeah. Oops. So moving on. Oops. Sorry. Just different people have a different understanding of competencies. So I just wanted to put this up very quickly, is that competencies refer to skills, attributes, and behaviors that are directly related to successful performance. And I think a lot of people hear the word that when we recruit for attitude. I think when you start initially as graduates, everybody starts looking at attitude, communication, teamwork, and they want you to be very proficient at that. And also, what they always say is, if you have a good behavior, you can always learn the skills. So a lot of emphasis is put on behavioral assessment at the beginning, but I think throughout people's careers, they will look at a combination of these. Yeah. How competencies are used. I think if you look at it now on the whole life cycle of an employee, competencies are used even before joining a company, because now if you look at even job descriptions, you will find that they will highlight the key competencies for the job, and people will be interviewed and assessed against those competencies and rated according to those competencies to win the job. So it's very important to actually establish what competencies that I want to be very proficient to increase my chances for the job. And if you look at the very senior jobs, the competencies change there. We're starting to look more at leadership competencies more than the technical competencies. And when you're going into a technical route or technical ladder, it's very important to address your technical competencies to a skill level of mastery. So as I've indicated in this slide, competencies are used at all areas. They're used in terms of learning and developing, finding out what the training needs for an individual. They're used in terms of performance management systems. They're used in succession management. And if it is designed and implemented well, people don't actually have to go and ask for promotions or moves to different careers or even opportunities into different areas. By having your competencies defined, and also for you to have established competencies in certain areas, you can actually very easily move into different areas in of your career.
Super.
Okay. I just wanted to highlight a few competencies examples here that most of you will be familiar with. And I've just picked 3 here, but I'll also mention a few others. Is on the behavioral. I think very important is people to achieve. Achievement is a lot of the time people, even when we interview, we want to see what have they achieved in the past, and that reflects what they can do in future. Agility, especially in this current climax, is to be agile, very important. Analytical skills, also a very key competency there. In terms of leadership, it's all about managing others, leadership and managing change. So you'll see things like inspiring others, leading change, and embracing diversity. And then you go to the technical, where I stressed as a very big opportunity here, is people to build their proficiency levels in their areas of discipline. And I've mentioned a few there, whether it's in accounts, in human resource, supply chain, and so on and so forth. And you'll find a lot of people still generous, but if you look at people in specialist roles, I'll give you a very good example, is that we have been looking to hire somebody as a compensation and benefit specialist, and a lot of people are doing payroll. So all they do is administer payroll, but they are not specialists in compensation and benefit. So there's a very big difference there, is that the title says something, but when you actually come and assess these people, you'll find them, they're just doing an administrative role in terms of that. So there's a big opportunity for people in that area, for instance, to improve and have further opportunities in their career to grow. Some companies also, what I'd like to add here, is that they also look at organization competencies. So if it's a high-tech company, they will want people, creative people and innovative people. So they'll have a couple of competencies which says anybody that comes into this company, we want them to have at least these 2 competencies are key for the success of this company. And then they will look at the department, and then at the individual competencies. And in our experience, we've seen companies that have up to 80 competence, 20 competencies for a certain job, and we find that will be too many to manage. A good number would be between 6 and 8 competencies for a job.
Good.
Yeah.
I,
This is my last slide, is that with competencies, I think you have to look at the proficiency levels. Many companies have, I've showed an example here of 4 proficiency levels from awareness all the way to mastery. Different companies use different scales. Some go up to 5, some go to 3. I personally like the 4 scale, where it takes you from awareness all the way to mastery. And people have to divide at what stage they are and where they want to go, and then look at the different means of improving those competencies and heading to a mastery level. And I think what Adrian pointed out is that there is so many different options now, is that you don't have to go to a university and you don't have to have a PhD. There is so many different ways of learning. And also there's so many different support mechanisms that are also offered for free with many institutes. So, you know, the internet has brought so much for us. And I think there's so many opportunities out there for learning, and it's not limited to only learning in classrooms, but online learning. And another thing is also is that there's too much emphasis on people doing masters and PhDs. I think those are very good, but you need to distinguish your career options and see if that's the right career, right training for you. For most jobs, I would say they concentrate on their professional training more than on the academic university postgraduate qualifications.
thank you.
So with that, I could speak the whole day about competencies, but I think we're rushed with time. I just give you a quick overview. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sheikh Faiz. Fantastic overview on competencies. I'm learning a few things there from your presentation. I'd like to turn to Nabila Lamri. She's actually walked the talk, young professional into training, and then she's did self-learning. She did some SME, entrepreneurship, and now I believe she's a coach. And so there we are. So maybe you can give some of your pathways or your journey to some of our young graduates to aspire from you. Nabila, go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Maharat. I'm just thinking whether I should turn off my video too for better connection, or is my voice sound okay?
No, it's perfect. Thank you very much.
So I'll just share my screen. So I would like to, let me just turn this one off as well. Right. So I would like to bring your attention to a different perspective, and my speech specifically will be targeting graduates. So everybody has covered different areas with, you know, recruitment and how to get into the market, but I would like to specifically talk to the graduates on what they should do and how they should take all of this in. So we have all been trying to fill the unemployability gap for a couple of years now. This is why we are here today. This is our passion. We want to help all the graduates to be employable. Now, we know that graduates are unemployable because they lack all the skills that they need. And these skills have been mentioned over and over again, and we've seen them today in the slides. And the question here is it possible to make them all obtain the necessary skills? That's our aim, right? So, but however, I would like the graduates to have a different mindset, to change their mindset and up their game a little bit because it's a tough market. To train them all and be employable is definitely something we aim for, but it's currently a challenge. It has been a challenge for many, many years. So what's going to happen next? Are they still going to be waiting for them, for the organizations to train them? So their mindset has to change, and they have to think differently. And instead of having a fixed mindset, have a correct mindset by saying, I will be able to train myself, develop myself. So as a graduate, if you are a graduate, You need to research more on what skills you need to obtain. You need to be, you're aiming to be a perfect candidate for a specific organization or a job. And in order to do that, you need to find out by yourself how that can happen. You cannot just wait to be spoon-fed. Organizations will train you, will make you the perfect fit for a specific position, but before even getting that job, you need to have some kind of professional skills. Maybe some licenses you need to look for, courses. Mr. Faiz just pointed that out now, there's a lot of e-learning as well. So that comes up with your innovative mind. How can you find the different courses? So how can you find all the licenses that you need to, to obtain for a specific position? How can you make yourself the perfect candidate in comparison to other candidates that are out there, which, how can you compare yourself to other people? So when one looks at a career path, we normally look at a career path at the beginning of our career. You aim to get a degree, and you see the degree is here, and then you see the career there, a specific position that you aim for. But that's not how it works. It's not a straight line. It's not just about having the degree. Again, Mr. Faiz pointed that out right now, or a master's or a PhD, but a career is actually a journey with a lot of turns, a lot of humps and bumps. It's a whole different experience. So once you have that degree, you cannot expect yourself to just get the career that you want, or you have a vision and a mission, but how can you get there is a different story. There may be a change with your path, and the change could include maybe economical change, maybe could be company change. We have changes happening now because of the pandemic. So you have to know and learn how to go about, and as Mr. Warith pointed out as well, adapt to the change. Then maybe there's other opportunities that you may find on your way to your career. There may be different things that you may come across. You may be offered different positions, a different path, and that gives you a different turn. As well, there may be a sudden drop. Again, with this pandemic, it's showing us a huge example of a sudden drop. So many people have lost their jobs. Some people have, their salaries have been cut to half. And this is a sudden drop for a lot of people. So how can you adapt to this sudden drop and pick up yourself and go forward with your career? And maybe there's a change of interest. So you yourself might find that you're not interested anymore in what you're doing and find something else, find a different opportunity. Something else has come up, just like the blockchains. This has created a huge disruption in the job market, and people have diverted their jobs. And that's how you create a successful career for yourself. And this is the way to go with this, in order for you to get to a successful career. There's no straight line. It's not about getting your degree and just, degree and then straight away into that job. So how can you get there? You need to prepare yourself. And so you need to know what you want. First of all, you need to, and why do you want it? This is something you need to really know after you've graduated, and sometimes before you even get on board your degree or major that you want to take. How can you grow in that job is a plan you have to create for yourself. There are organizations, and it's a responsibility of many organizations for them to create a perfect career path for you, but it's not up to them to plan it for you. It's up to you to know what you want, and therefore you plan how you grow in that job. And what are the positions that you have to go through to reach to your end target? If you want to be a CEO of a company, it's not going to happen overnight. You need to plan for it. So how can you get there? What experience do you need? How long do you need to obtain that experience? What knowledge, training? What do you need to get there, basically, in simple words? How long does each transition take? So in order for you to reach to a specific position, like the CEO, as I just mentioned, you need to go through various positions until you get to that position. How many years does it take for each position? How many hours would you have to work, maybe within different organizations? What is the salary for each position? basically you have to plan and you have to understand how many years will it take you until you reach to your end of your career path or a successful career path. A career does not mean a job. A career is a journey. How do you plan that journey? And it is up to you basically to self-invest in yourself with learning, with practice, with internship. You don't have a job, go for an internship. No recruiter or organization will want to take a candidate who has been staying at home for so many years without trying to do something. But if you work hard and be a skilled, full person, then at least you will be able to show how motivated you are and how responsible you are and what kind of person you are in terms of all of these skills. And I hope you find your way. Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you very much, Nabila. Well said, and I think it's a very nice way to not come to an end, but kind of like stop here in terms of us saying a few words. We will definitely go to the audience and ask them some questions, or if they have got any questions, please put your questions across in a few minutes' time or immediately so that we can pick up from them. What I'd like to do, if possible, is that just ask Tahira to come in and do the sort of the closure, not the closure of the seminar, but to say what else does Maharat have in stock people can access to. And the whole idea is that Maharat aims to bring global best practices locally. And people can then tap in instead of having to go throughout the world for it. So one thing that we really want to emphasize that Maharat is available at any time. If you need any specific programs or solutions, please connect up with the right individuals and inshallah you will get the right solutions to your doorstep. So without further ado, please, Tahira, if you can give us the closure, then we'll take
okay, sir.
And we continue forward. Okay, thank you.
Okay, then first of all, I would like to take this opportunity on behalf of Maharat to thank our valued panelists and all you wonderful attendees for taking time out from your busy schedules to join this webinar. I hope you found this session interesting and informative. We value your opinion and we would like to request you all to please vote on the opinion poll that is up on the screen.
I'm told as a panelist, I cannot vote. So it has to be the audience.
I think it's the same case with us as well.
Yeah.
No cheating. Good.
Yeah.
So
we hope to bring you more interesting webinar topics in the future. Speaking of future, please note and book your calendar for our upcoming webinar session and our ongoing training courses. Please feel free to register for our courses through our website, www.maharat.om, and follow us on our social media platforms for updates on the upcoming events and courses. Once again, we thank you all. This was Tahira Al-Blushi. Enjoy the rest of the day and stay safe. You can take over now, Mr. Warek.
Yes, thank you, Tahira. So now maybe since you've seen that, there's more things that you can avail from Maharat. We'll take the questions now. Please, the person who's looking at the questions, can you just lift up a few of those questions? And also, can we get the feedback about what is that the people are looking for? So from the questionnaire, the polling question. Salty, do you want to? Okay, so there's
there's 4 questions in the Q&A section. I think you can just go there and pick them up in sequence.
All right. Anyway, let us do this polling question. it appears that professional development takes a big role here. As a lot of 56% of the people have said, let's look at more professional development. And that is exactly what Maharat is actually trying to do now, is access things like CILT, CIPD, CIPS. These are all professional qualifications. And I think now they hold a lot of weight towards the companies. Companies want to see people self-investing themselves and being able to get these professional qualifications, because these ones actually look at your capabilities, your abilities, and your competence. So it's a very good result, I think. So yes, I think the emphasis to professional development is the way forward. Let us pick up a few live questions here. I can see from Nabil, he says, my question is to Mr. Abdullah Busaidi. One of the roles of an SSU that you have mentioned is to develop and implement skill certification schemes. From your experience and observations from recent times, could you give us an overview of the most sought of the by the employers? Could you come to that, Mr. Abdullah?
Sure, I could. Thank you, Nabil, for the question. It is a very valuable question. In here, I just want to clarify. In here, when we said skill certification means competency certification. It's like a competency card, which once we said someone is competent and he proves he's competent, he will be given a certificate on this perspective. That being said, this is all based on the NOS, which is the competency defined by the industry, endorsed by the government, which is the National Occupational Standards. Currently, we are working closely with the industry. We are working closely even with the regulatory bodies to look at different skill certification options. One of them is the lifting operations, and simply because we have developed a national occupation for lifting operations, including different types of job roles, and that's what we are aiming for as a pilot. Then we are moving to different occupations. So that's what I'm just to clarify. Skill certification here means it's a competency-based scheme. It's not a certification as you are finishing a program. No, it's saying you are competent to do this particular job or role based on a defined competency from the National Occupational Standards. I hope that answers your question, Nabil.
Okay, the next question we have here is for Mr. Faiz. What needs to be done to develop the culture of PMS, Performance Management System, PLRS, Performance Linked Reward Scheme, amongst Omani companies? So Faiz, would you like to take that question and answer it?
Yes, I think you have to go into a diagnosis with the companies first to establish what performance management system would be optimal for them, because it depends also on the maturity of the company. You know, companies are going for balanced scorecard, but if you have no performance management system at all, I think it will be very difficult to start up with something very complicated like a balanced scorecard. So my view is I think you need to go in and see the maturity of that company, what they have been doing before with the performance management system, and design something that will evolve over 2 to 4 to 5 years. So it's not a straightforward answer if you don't know the organization.
Thank you, Mr. Faiz. What I'd like to do is ask another question now. In fact, it was put in the chat room. Now it's come to the question and answer, which is the right place. This is Amanula Basha, and she's asking, say, my sister Nabila, as an employee, I purely think that the employers are not ready to recognize or appreciate their employees at any stage. Say something to the employers about this.
That's a very interesting comment there. I am not sure I can agree 100% to that. If all employees do not appreciate the employees, because there is a lot of awareness at the moment with emotional intelligence, specifically as we keep on mentioning. So it's not only about the graduates that they need emotional intelligence, but employers are also learning to understand their employees. So they do all the team building exercises. They try to listen to their employees at a better level. And this is what I know, correct me if I'm wrong with all the panelists that are on board today, if I am wrong in this, but as I understand with larger corporations, a lot of these corporations are trying to understand the needs of their employees at a better level. But what I was saying is that as a fresh graduate or somebody who's looking for a different job, you need to also try and understand what the employer requires of you, so that you can both be compatible, and there should be flexibility from both sides. I wonder if I answered your question, and if there's any panelist that wants to add on top of what I've just said.
If I may add, normally the companies, such a companies are losing in their image, and they don't have a competitive advantage or competitive actually as an image. And most of the time, if such an organization are in this attitude, they will lose their talents in the long term. That's my opinion.
Good. I hope that answers. Anyway, we're around, we're not going anywhere. So if you want follow-up discussions, we are most happy. Abdullah will be happy. He's just around the Opal there, his offices, you can visit them. Nabila is a regular coach, and she's very much in the social media. So please connect with us anytime. So anyway, the last question I'd like to take is Jinan Al-Kharousi. Most of the jobs require 5 to 7 years experience as a fresh graduate. How can I gain such experience if I'm not allowed to apply in these jobs because I lack experience? I think maybe Nabila would be a better person to maybe say something about this.
Let me just have a look at the question again. Most jobs require 5 to 7 years of experience. How can I gain such experience if I'm not allowed to apply in those jobs because I lack the experience? All right, yes, this is where we are all struggling at the moment with trying to fill in the employability gap. This is why this webinar is on today, for this specific reason. So you need to make yourself employable. I know it's difficult for you or for others to get a job because a lot of jobs require 5 to 7 years, but you need to also sit back and think, what is that job you're applying for and how are you employable to that job? Do you really have the skills, or are you applying for something that is higher than what you actually have? Sometimes you have to start lower, even though you don't like to, but you need to start lower so that you can go through all the channels until you get to your end target. Unfortunately, this is the way, and actually it's at your advantage because, and then when you do get up to that level that you want to, you already went through all the channels and you know what goes on in all of these channels, so that when people are under you, you will know how to guide them and how to lead them.
Great. In fact, this is a very nice question, and I think Nabila has given a good overview. I'd like to actually take it to other panelists as well. For instance, like Faiz, would you like to put some thoughts to this?
I think what Nabila pointed out is don't wait for a job. Don't wait for a job, because I think there's lots of things. If you have the right skills, then the right attitude, there's lots of things you can start doing from home. And if you've got a skill, nurture that skill. And there's so many things that you can just learn online now. And most of it would be surprised at how much you can learn for free. And, you know, I know young people who started just designing websites, very simple, for small SMEs who cannot afford to pay a lot of amount for a website. And they can make a better salary than looking for a job. So I think there's lots of things you can start. You can make cookies, you can do whatever, but I think there's lots of opportunities out there. You just have to be serious enough to say, listen, I want to do something with my life. I can't get a job. What else can I do? What other options are there? And if you really look hard enough, there is a lot of services that are required. and I think Adrian pointed out, there's so many new things, so many new technologies coming about that people are not familiar with and need to be trained on. And if you can self-learn these things and then share this learning with other people, it's great, even with other graduates. So they need to make a move, I think, by themselves, and they can come to us in Agial, and we could give them advice on, if we know what their interests are, we'll be more than happy to help them and guide them to see what they can do.
Very good. In fact, great. I will also try to get Adrian as well. What is your perspective? I think you've shown a number of completely brand new type of skills required, and you can easily get into those things.
Yes, I think there's a low barrier to entry for some skills. There are so many tools and technologies that are available free on the internet these days. There are so many development options via people like Coursera and Udemy, where you can learn for free from world-class institutions and brands like IBM or Google or from Harvard. Those types of opportunities are available to you free of charge. So the limitation is only your own imagination. And this is my fourth or maybe fifth recession. But in my second recession, I basically wanted to do something totally different. Nobody would back me doing it. So I set up my own video production company with very slender resources and very slender skills. But it is possible to do these things if you pick the right opportunity. Consider whether you can back yourself, whether you've got some funding available, some seed funding from friends or family, or indeed whether there are government grants available to help you back yourself if you can't find somebody else who would back you. But I've known businesses built on virtually no experience and virtually no expertise, providing nobody else has got any experience or expertise either. And that's the situation for so many of these new and emerging technologies. So rather than compete in a job market with 16,000 qualified oil and gas workers, you have to ask yourself, maybe there's a better opportunity in some of the emerging areas which are being disrupted thanks to COVID-19.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to throw the last question to Abdullah.
Well, can I add something in here? I agree with all the panelists.
Yes.
Yes, there are a lot of opportunities in here, and actually the new generation have got more privilege than the old generation in terms of the availability of knowledge. The knowledge is over there, so you can educate yourself. There is no doubt about it. Talking about linkage and talking about filling up the gaps, through the SSU, of course, as I mentioned earlier, we have got an arm in here, or a department called Human Capital Development Product and Services, where we are trying to reactivate the apprenticeship programs, where he or she will be in a job through either OGT or one of those schemes that's to learn skills required for him to be more employable and more has got the skills needed to fill up that jobs. That being said, I believe that's one of the requirements even for a higher education is you have to have the internship within your training or within your educations. This is my personal observation in here. What I've noticed is some of the students, they don't take it serious. It's just like a phase where they want to take a mark. I've done my internship and that is it. There are so many organizations who are offering internship, and we are trying through OPAL, we are encouraging our members to take internship because it's a kind of CSR where you return back to the community, where you train someone, where just give him that kind of open a door for him to have an insight of the work experience. So that's what I want to say. As I said, we have got within OPAL, we are reactivating, or we are working hard in apprenticeship, long and short programs, as well as we have got an OGT detected just for such schemes. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for that. I'll take the last two and combine them, and then we can do a wrap up. There's a question here from Wadir. Do you think going forward post-COVID-19, will most graduates be a freelancer to have a diversified job? to have a diverse jobs? Well, I think the answer we always saying is that please self-educate, self-invest. So yeah, be a freelancer, learn the job, and then you probably get the job, or you will be an entrepreneur yourself. So being a freelancer is a good thing. The other one I'd like to finalize with is this: is that Mohammed Mamri is asking, how can working within another discipline than the one I have studied help me get the needed experience to work within my discipline? I think I can probably answer that a bit. You know, I'd like to close actually in a few minutes, so that's why I'm also answering. Well, to learn in any discipline, first of all, like we just said, that maybe post-COVID-19, maybe a lot of jobs will disappear. So if you've learned a discipline, you have to be able to adapt to something else. So learning is a process, whether you're in one discipline or the other, you just do it and then adapt. And if you can't adapt and you still want to go back to your original discipline, I think that's going backwards. So I feel that try as much as possible just to keep on going. You have a journey, you have challenges, and within those challenges, try to find another path. No better than a graph that Nabil has put up before, with all these complex routes, some of them going backwards, some of them going forward. But you want to have success, you got to do a bit of both, and then maybe align yourself to the success. So I'd like to wrap up there, please, if you don't mind, all of you. Unless there's something burning, questions, etc., please do feel free to email us, connect with us. All the panelists have given me their commitment that they will follow through, because this whole idea is for us to interact with the graduates, job seekers, and anybody we can give advice to, a coach, or bridge a program so that they successfully get to their end of their careers. So thank you all, and thank you for listening, and thank you very much, all the audience, to give us about an hour and a half to talk to each other. But the whole idea is to create a culture of learning within Oman. Thank you very much appreciated.